The positive nature of Jesus' religion. Jesus had instructed his apostle Nathanael in a personal conversation about the truthfulness of the holy Jewish scriptures. But how did Jesus extract the truth from the holy Jewish books? He emphasized the texts that contained eternal truth or divine beauty, such as, "Create in me a clean heart, O Lord. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. And nations shall not learn war anymore." And this illustrates how Jesus appropriated the truth from the Hebrew scriptures to instruct his followers and how he made them applicable to the kingdom. Other religions had also introduced the idea that God is close to people, but Jesus equated God's care for humans with the concern of a loving father watching over his dependent children. And he made this teaching the cornerstone of his religion. And if God is a father to all people, then the practice of the brotherhood of humanity is unavoidable. The worship of God and the service of your fellow human became the sum and essence of his religion. Jesus took the best of the Jewish religion and used it as a worthy framework for his new teaching, the gospel of the kingdom. Jesus introduced the spirit of positive action into the passive teachings of the Jewish religion. Instead of the negative compliance with ceremonial obligations, Jesus demands positive action from those who accept the gospel. Jesus' religion did not consist merely of believing, for it is precisely this faith that generates invisible energy, which feeds people to take action to do good. He did not teach that the essence of his religion consisted of serving fellow humans, but he did teach that the result of believing would produce the fruit of social activities. Jesus did not hesitate to make the best part of a scripture passage his own, while rejecting the less good part. His great call, "Love your neighbor as yourself," he derived from a scripture passage that reads, "You shall not take vengeance against the children of your people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself." Leviticus 19:18. Jesus appropriated the positive part of this Bible text while rejecting the negative part. Jesus was opposed to passive non-resistance. In this regard, he said, "When an enemy strikes you on the one cheek, do not stand there dazed and passively, but turn the other cheek to him." By this he meant, do everything possible to bring your erring brother away from evil paths and point him to the better ways of a righteous life. Jesus wanted his followers to respond positively and with initiative. Turning the other cheek, or any action that this metaphor may symbolize, requires courage. The believer opens up to take action against the wrongs of power, even if it may cost him another blow or even his reputation. Jesus urged his followers to be wise and alert to quickly respond positively to wrongs so that they could effectively combat evil with good. Remember that true good is always more powerful than the worst evil. The Master taught a positive standard of righteousness. Anyone who wants to be my disciple must deny himself and fully accept his responsibility to follow me daily. He himself lived, doing good. This fruit was also well highlighted by many parables that he later told his followers. He never encouraged his followers to bear their obligations patiently, but to fulfill their human responsibilities with energy and enthusiasm. When Jesus taught his apostles that if someone steals a garment from you, you should offer the thief another garment as well, he did not mean a second garment in a literal sense, but rather the idea of doing something positive to save the wrongdoer. Instead of the old advice of taking revenge, such as an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, Jesus abhorred both the idea of retaliation and the idea of merely suffering passively. If you are threatened to become a victim of injustice, be aware of the three ways you can respond. 1. Repay evil with evil. An active but unjust method. 2. Suffer the evil without complaint, passively. This is the purely negative method. 3. Repay evil with good. Here you assert the will to master the situation. Overcoming evil with good. This is the way Christ has taught you. The positive and just method. One of the apostles once asked, "Master, what should I do when a stranger forces me to carry his burden for a mile?" Jesus then replied, "Do not sit down sighing for relief from your burden while silently cursing the stranger. From such a passive attitude, no righteousness will come forth. If you cannot think of anything that would have a truly positive effect, you can at least carry the burden for a second mile. This will certainly challenge that unjust, godless stranger." The Jews had heard of a God who was willing to forgive repentant sinners and who forgave their evil deeds. But it was only with the coming of Jesus that people heard of a God who went out to seek the lost sheep, who took the initiative to look after sinners, and who rejoiced when one returned to the house of the Father. In all his teaching, Jesus always avoided distracting details. He shunned flowery language and avoided the poetic imagery that is often just a play on words. He used to capture things of great meaning in small expressions. To clarify matters, Jesus often deviated from the conventional meaning of many terms, such as salt, leaven, fish, and little children. But the greatest power of his illustrative teaching was its naturalness. Jesus brought religion down from heaven to earth. He described the basic needs of the soul with new insight and facilitated awareness with a new gift of love.